Relax. We gotta just chill out, man.
Pittsburgh Steeler fans, welcome back to another edition of the Scho Bro Show. This is Steel Curtain Network editor Dave Schofield coming at you. It's Tuesday night. Oh, we're a little bit later than 9 p.m. Oh, well. But where else would you rather be as a Steelers fan? And with me as always, except when he's not, is my big brother Rich. And this just happens to be one of those times where he is not. Yes, that's right, Big Bro Scho. He is actually fishing at the Outer Banks for several days after everything going on with their family. Is a nice time for him to get away. But don't worry, I will not be here alone. But before we get into that, a couple things. One, I'm taking the liberty, since he's not here, I will do it for him, that I will breathe in that sweet smell of victory that Big Bro Scho usually likes to do after we get a Steelers win. And this was a Steelers decisive win. Really sorry that we got going a little bit later, but I just thought I'd put it out there that today's kind of a big day. Today is my father's birthday. He turned 77 years old today, and he called me just before the show, and I took that call. So that's why we're running a little bit late. But we also have a special guest with us. And normally, we're dipping into our Steel Curtain Network family. This is a friend of the family. This is a good one. I got a very special guest tonight because we actually have multiple Steelers podcasts on Fans First Sports Network. We have Steel Curtain Network. We've got where you have all kinds of Pittsburgh stuff with the Breakfast with Ben's podcast. We've got the Steelers Afternoon Drive podcast. We've got Around the 412. But we've got another one that I've never missed an episode. And that is, if you have not checked out through Fans First Sports Network, Black and Gold Blueprint, you're really missing, because tonight we have one of the hosts from Black and Gold Blueprint, also a contributor at Steel City Insider as their scouting/draft guy. We have got the one and only Preacher Boy, Roy Countryman. How's it going tonight, Roy?
Hey, I'm quite blessed here to be on the Scho Bro Show. I mean, I feel like I should have a banner here, like walking in like a studio wrestler. We need some pyro, Dave. I'm so glad to be on here with you. We've kind of had some schedule conflicts before trying to get together here on an appearance, but just really appreciate the opportunity to come and talk Steeler football. And I hope your brother's catching a lot of fish up there. Getting away for a little bit. I heard you guys have had a rough go of it here, and I did want to send my sympathies and prayers to you guys as this rough time. It's never fun, but we're gonna talk about football, and hey, yeah. That's all. It soothes the soul sometimes whenever we're having rough times, right?
Exactly. Now, for those of you that are like, hey, Roy, have we seen him before? Well, you've heard him on Let's Ride before, definitely. But also, I convinced Roy to come on when we had our live show going on during the draft this past April. You came on for a while as we were just sitting there talking about the draft. That was new for us this past year. We had done Zoom calls with our staff before and recorded them just to play some of the audio, but we decided we were just going to be live on YouTube the whole time during the draft. It was a blast. It really was. So I'm really hoping that we can make sure that we can do that again. But yeah, Roy's been around. Friend of the network is I guess the best way to say it. And also, like I said, he contributes for Steel City Insider. You can hear the Steel City Insider podcast with Jim and Jeremy on Steel Curtain Network. That usually comes out Wednesday afternoons. So you should, when I say afternoon, I think it's usually around 11 a.m. So you should be looking for that one tomorrow. So Roy, the way this goes down is this is our family show. As my shirt says, faith, family, Pittsburgh football. So this is usually just a couple brothers who tried not to talk about the Steelers otherwise from the time of the game to the time of this show. So we just talk about the game. But before we do, we hit the news. And there's some news going on. And we're gonna tie the news into some of the stuff going on with the game when we get there. But first thing is there's been some trades going on in the NFL today. The big one was the Steelers did not land Devontae Adams. I know he was a guy that both you and Rob were
Yeah.
really pushing for, especially after the whole Brandon Ayuk thing. You guys were all in on both of those guys. He gets traded. Amari Cooper gets traded to the Bills. I know some people, even some Steel Curtain Network people, really wanted to see Cooper to the Steelers. I'm like, there's no way the Browns are going to send him to the Steelers. So that just didn't work out right. Then there was a running back today. What was it? Cam Akers went back to Minnesota, I think it was. There's been several trades, but when you saw the news today that that Devontae Adams was not going to end up in Pittsburgh, what were your thoughts there?
I mean, I can't say I'm shocked. I think it was more than anything, it was the likely outcome that he was going to go back and play with Aaron Rodgers. I mean, the biggest thing is, as far as from my perspective, he would have been a great addition as that professional receiver, whether it's Russell Wilson or it was Justin Fields, to have a guy that you can depend on 99.9% of the time and where he's going to be at in his route when you hit that fifth step or the third step. I think that's what we're sorely lacking in this offense right now. You've seen in the performance against the Raiders here. We were all expecting maybe a big bounce back game by George Pickens, and kind of had an underwhelming performance with a couple drops there. And even in a play called late in the game to try to get him that first touchdown, really didn't come through. And so for me, it's still incomplete as far as receivers go for me and grading wise. And Devontae Adams, I just, whether the Steelers were competitive or not, I think it was more what choice he had in the matter to make it happen. I think if we would have been more willing to take on money, I think we may have had a better chance of getting this, but that conditional was a conditional third that could be a second, and them taking on the entirety of the contract really made this a no-brainer as far as, what team to send him to for the Raiders.
Well, it's a conditional third, but I'm sorry, it's a long shot to meet those conditions. What is it? He's got to be first or second team All-Pro after missing several games.
Yeah.
Or on the active roster for the AFC Championship game or the Super Bowl.
Yep.
To a team that's 2-4. Not that it's out of the question, but those aren't. Let's just say that those are more of the not likely to be earned category that you would get if you're talking about a contract.
If you watched Monday night, Dave, I mean, they might have been better off going out and getting maybe some more offensive line reinforcements rather than that receiver, because I don't know about Tyron Smith, but he's looking like he's a step slow now off of the snap, and Aaron Rodgers is paying the price for that. So I don't know.
All I saw from that, let's see, I think I only saw I saw the second half of the game. All I saw was a whole lot of the officials on the screen from all those ridiculous flags. But at the same time, if teams are committing penalties, call them. Now there were some that weren't, but let's not get into that. That's not Steelers.
Right.
Here's one that's interesting. Bring up. So I got to find it again. Steel Dog 88 puts in the live chat, says, I'm going for Mike Williams to Pittsburgh. That's interesting from a number standpoint. I crunched some things with his salary. You'd be talking, I mean, if this happened for this week, remember, every week that goes on in the season is less of the salary that the new team would have to pay. If it happened this week, it's right around 4.5 million would be that number that the Steelers would take on. And the Jets say they're shopping him now. The Steelers were going to meet with him. What are your thoughts there?
So the thing with him is I'd have to double check, but I'm pretty sure they included 2 void years on his contract to make it more palatable. So that's the thing for me. So that's the thing for me with Mike Williams. As far as player wise, he's better than anything else we have opposite of George Pickens. That tall, lengthy, catch radius is what you need, whether it's Justin Fields or Russell Wilson. But I just don't know if I would be willing to sacrifice a draft pick for it right now, because I think the Jets are in the situation where if the Steelers don't go after him, who's going to acquire him? He's had back issues. He's had knee issues. There's a lot of red flags there. I think if Omar Khan wants to slow play this like he has the entire wide receiver market, you wait out the Jets and see if they don't flat out release him, because he is not going to want to sit out being the fourth or fifth receiver, he's probably going to be inactive if he's even still in that roster till another week. So for me, I would take Mike Williams if we're talking about an outside free agent addition, but I don't see it flipping a pick. If it would be a conditional seventh at most, and it would have to be that he plays every game going forward.
To me, I mean, what the Steelers have, 3 7th-round draft picks next year because they got 2 from the Eagles.
Yeah, I'm
in the
pretty
Kenny
sure
Pickett deal or something like that. I can't remember what all picks they have. It's all been moved around so much. But I mean, I would even be like a pick swap, like a 6 for a 7, where you don't even lose something. Now, the void years, that doesn't matter to the Steelers because that was just all about the Jets spreading out the signing bonus. So that really would just be coming to Pittsburgh with the rest of this 1-year deal is really all it was, unless they signed something else. But when it came to Adams, he was really working with the Jets to make it work. The Jets took on the salary, but then again, he redid stuff for this year that lowered the cap hit for this year. He wouldn't have necessarily done that for other teams if it wasn't where he wanted to go.
Right.
So there was a lot of factors there. I don't like the idea of paying a lot of money and giving up high draft capital for a 1-year rental. If it's a 1-year rental with someone like a Mike Williams. But remember, the Steelers have been burnt before with trading for somebody that never played.
Yeah. William Jackson III.
Yeah. So I think they're still looking. We'll see what they do. I don't sell the farm. I'm glad they didn't completely sell the farm. Now, I also agree that if the Steelers think that that's the one piece they were missing and they were a little bit more willing to sell the farm, I could get that. I could get that. Let's see some other news. And yes, Tyler W., I see your super chat. We will get to that because that's a topic we will be talking about here in a little bit. But also, unfortunately, well, you could say unfortunately or fortunately, depending on which way you were looking at it, Mike Tomlin did announce today that Zach Frazier is out for this week. But the good news is it's not supposed to be long-term. It could be just the one game. I wouldn't be shocked if it's the next 2 because then you get the bye week in there as well. Talked about Ryan McCollum. He's been with the team long enough. He knows how things work. It's not like he's not going to be able to make the calls, things like that. How big of a deal do you think it is the Steelers are missing Zach Frazier this week?
I think it's going to be a huge missing link there, especially when we're talking about the quarterback situation, which we'll get to here. But Zach Frazier, in my opinion, has probably been the second best center in all of the NFL this year. That's just not coming from a Steeler fan's perspective. That's coming from an NFL perspective. This guy has been everything that we wanted as advertised in the draft and more. And with an offensive line that's had so many different injury problems, it was really him and Dan Moore as the last 2 pillars that were standing there with any continuity. And I think as far as McCollum, he's a nice player with that center guard versatility. He's a little quicker. He's in that same vein as Frazier, but he doesn't have the wrestling background. He doesn't have his heavy-handedness. But he's a solid backup. He played some guard for Houston early on in his rookie year, I believe. So he's not completely devoid of any type of reps in the NFL. But I think that's going to be a huge adjustment. The only thing I will say is I'm glad that he has a full week to prepare, knowing that he's a starter.
Yeah.
And we have Isaac Samalu back. I think that's going to be one of the saving graces now. If this would have been a game before Samalu was back and now James Daniels gone at right guard, I think Samalu is going to take a little bit of the weight off and all the calls and all the different adjustments. He can kind of help buoy the storm until Frazier gets back. So it's not a complete panic, but it's definitely a downgrade and something that needs to be made aware of against this Jets team. It has some pretty big bodies along the interior.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, here we go. I'm going to give you a lesson from one Jim Wexell. All right, here you go. He's like, how do you pronounce these Pacific Island names? Okay, it's very simple. Every vowel gets a syllable. So you have to pronounce every vowel with its own syllable. Seumalu. Or sorry, I said u instead of o. Seumalo. Okay. I love the and Fautanu. I love how we got to Pittsburgh them up and try to combine the syllables in there like a Pittsburgher. or do we separate it based on what their names are? But I just had to throw that out there because it's a whole lot of fun.
Hey, I will be the first one to admit, Mr. Wexel has greatly improved my grammar since I've started writing for him at 24/7. I always take
out of it.
I always take his recommendations in stride because I know my grammar ain't the best, and sometimes I gotta kind of Sunday it up for the church choir there. That's it gets kind of messy, but great kudos to Wexel there. He always helps me look smarter than what I actually am.
Yeah, well, I got to bring this up from Afton Forward. One of our regulars says, I want the Fautanu shirt. That's right. Through Steel Curtain Network, we have a shirt that you can buy. Let's see if I can bring up the website here. I got to find it. There we go. At scnstore.itemorder.com. You can find it where it shows it phonetically, how you spell Fautanu or how you pronounce it. So if anyone's interested in that, thank you. Hopefully you can get one of those. Okay. We got to get to the last thing of the news, which is really going to roll into talking about this past week's game, which is really what this show is really all about. Because I don't think you can separate them. And that is the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback position. This is huge. Okay. The name of the show, the title of the show says, does past success or future potential matter more for the Steelers? You can actually take that title and argue both sides for both players. You could say that past success is about Russell Wilson and his resume, and future potential is Justin Fields about being with the Steelers more long-term because of his age. You could talk about past success of Justin Fields because he's 4-2 with the Steelers, or future potential of, hey, we haven't seen what Russ can do with the Steelers yet. You can take either one of those for either guy, and that's kind of the reason that I like it. And it's a really good question because Coach Tomlin today, this is what's crazy. I'm covering the press conference, and just as we're getting into it, I'm trying to take notes on everything so I can do the press conference recap podcast that we have here at Steel Curtain Network, if y'all didn't check that out already. And I kind of find myself falling off from notes because all of a sudden I get the breaking news alert that I think it was Pelissero said that Tomlin is, that the Steelers are going with Russell Wilson this week. And I'm like, oh, wait, is he about to say it? Is he about to say it? No, he didn't. So it's not definite. Maybe that inside source that they have is saying it is. We have not heard from our inside source yet exactly what the Steelers are thinking about for this week. But Russell Wilson is going to have the opportunity in practice to show that he's able to do things. Justin Fields, he's still going to be working with the one some as well from what we hear. This is a big question. So to me, before we try to answer that question, I think we should go ahead and look at what did you think of the quarterback play from this past week? The Steelers, my goodness, the Steelers won by 19 points. They hadn't won by that many points on the road since 2020.
Like the Reagan administration.
Yeah. Well, no, it felt like that. No, they did win by that much in Jacksonville in 2020.
Yeah.
That was that 27-3 game. And they'd only won by that much one time since. That was at home. That was actually last year against Cincinnati in Mason Rudolph's first start. So they won by a lot. But, man, I've never heard Steelers fans go crazy even more about the quarterback position, which I also think now is a good time to bring up our super chat from Tyler W., who gives us $10 in the tip jar. Thank you very much, Tyler. He said, I got Jeff mad Sunday by complaining that Justin Fields was missing throws to open guys. He pointed out, I only care about wins, not process, because that's something that Jeff asked a couple weeks ago. Is it about getting the win, or is it about how you look getting the win? Because if you are one of those people that say it's all about the win, then you can't complain if it comes ugly. Okay, so Tyler then said he was right, but it looks like Mike Tomlin does care about process and wins. Yeah, we're going to get into that. So, like I said, but before we get into what we think the Steelers might do or things of that nature, what was your assessment of Justin Fields' performance on Sunday?
So this is like a dual-edged sword here, Dave. So the first half was awful. There was a sequence. I think it was 3 plays.
All down.
It was terrible. That was
3 plays you're talking about.
that was the closest we've seen to the Chicago Bears Justin Fields since he's been in black and gold. I actually even turned to one of my friends and said, we might see Russ at halftime here when they came out of the tunnel because it was that bad. I thought Tom may have went there. But I will give him credit. It seemed like in the second half, the play calling loosened up a little bit, and it seemed like they kind of took the handcuffs off of Justin. I also feel like the first half woes that we've seen and why they've been off to such a slow start, seems like those scripted plays that they're going with are so small in the minutia of setting up their play calling. It's like pounding your head into a brick wall and not changing anything. I mean, Arthur Smith even said prior to this game that we might see some different blocking schemes per se, which it did pay off. They did have some more gap blocking. We seen Najee get over the 100 yards, which also helped Justin getting in the second half. But they need to throw that toss sweep play out of the playbook with Najee Harris. He simply don't have the vision or the agility. And it seems like
can't block it right. They can't block it right.
No, and I'm sorry. Like at this point, I know we're talking about the quarterback situation.
No, that's okay. We can get it. We're going to run it back after that. So we'll just put it on
right now. One of the most concerning parts to me of the entire 53-man roster is Broderick Jones.
Yeah.
Where is his awareness and skill went? It's like he went AWOL. Like he's having an out of a body experience this year compared to what we've seen last year. Run blocking, he's still able to move people, but as far as pass protection, I'm not sure what's going on right now. I don't know if it's in his head switching left to right, and that's really having a negative effect with Justin Fields being under center. And even if you look at the play calling per se, when Fields is under center, they really only roll out to the right and hand the ball off. And that's a tell. Defensive coordinators pick up on that. And the play action game has started to come on the more we've seen in the Najee in the running game. But really, this early portions of the game, Dave, you could always hang your hat on one or the other. You either have the pass game going or the run game, and it's just simply been too stagnant. And I think that's a little bit of the handcuffing of the coaching staff. Not even Arthur Smith.
That's what I was preaching last week. I was very adamant about, come on, just stop coaching scared. Anyway,
and I think it needs to, like, Tomlin needs to take a look at some of the wording he just put out there for his quarterback competition. That it's not a quarterback competition. Whenever he's saying, well, we are not going to name a starter till later on the week, we're just going to roll the ball out there. That's what they've been doing in the second half.
Yeah.
When they realize that none of their receivers are getting open, or they won't even allow Roman Wilson to get more than 6 pass patterns or 6 plays out there entirely. Whenever you have a receiving group that simply is not separating or presenting themselves. I mean, the game before this one, in the second half, Justin Fields stopped looking to George Pickens because he couldn't trust him to be running out his route.
Yeah.
So for Justin Fields, I'm sorry. At this point, we could be 6-0 sitting here if our defense made a couple stands. And now we're talking about a situation in Justin Fields when he has one poor half in Las Vegas, that now we're talking about his job being thrown up there. I don't know. I think he should have bought himself a little bit of grace period with that second half play. That's really helped them turn around the game. Those 2 rushing touchdowns, I'm not so sure we're going to see that in Russell Wilson in the mobility.
Oh no.
He's only had 1 turnover as far as interceptions, and he's had some fumble issues, but that's been center quarterback exchange. It's just been some stagnated play there as well. In totality, he's played really well. You couldn't have asked for anything better at Justin Field, especially when you're going back and watching the Bears tape. He's just simply being the only guy can make a play. He's that right now for the Steelers offense, but he's not turning the ball over.
Yeah.
So what more are you going to ask out of Justin Fields? He's led them to a 4-2 standing, and it wasn't really his fault that they didn't come back and win those 2 losses. He put them at a point to where they could have won or had a comeback victory against the Colts. So to me, Justin Fields, the Raiders, first half was ugly. Second half seemed like they loosened the chains on him, and you've seen the dynamic playmaking ability come out.
Yeah, and see, I can't get over how many Steelers fans, because that's what it really comes out to. I mean, they were acting like this was a loss. They're like, oh, if it wasn't for a couple punch outs and a couple roughing the passer calls, the Steelers lose this game. I'm like, they put up 32 points. Really should have been 33. I don't like going for 2 in the first half, playing the numbers game. But oh well, which although Rob predicted 31-13.
He did say, he's like, Rob's like, I almost nailed it. I'm like, I'm glad
that was a really good one. So and people are like, oh, well, the passing game wasn't anything. Well, what do you want? Do you want Justin Fields 300 plus yards of passing in a 27-24 loss to the Colts, or Justin Fields 145 yards passing? Is that what it was? Something like that.
Yeah.
And a win by 19 points over the Raiders. I mean, that's what really baffles me. Is like, you can talk about having a more dynamic passing game, and no, it wasn't very good on Sunday. But you know what? It was good enough, along with the run game and along with the defense making splash plays and special teams making splash plays, for the Steelers to get a decisive win. And it's been a long time since I sat on my couch and could breathe easy in the fourth quarter. And I liked that. So I don't put all the, it's very simple. Even though wins go down as stats for quarterbacks, I don't put all the wins on Justin Fields, and I don't put all the losses on Justin Fields. It's really about what the Steelers are doing.
Yep.
Now, I'll tell you this. This is my standpoint. Justin Fields, Russell Wilson, I don't care. I just want the Steelers to have the best quarterback play in order to have their best opportunity to win. I'm not going to die on one hill or the other. I kind of got into it a little bit. We've been really civil on our open threads during the games at SteelCurtainNetwork.com. But there was someone who made a comment bad about Fields last week, came in, made it again this week, and I told them to just stop trolling and looking for an argument. And of course, then I started one. But what it was they finally then said exactly what I knew. And what they said was, Justin Fields, he can't be the quarterback of this team. Blah, 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 he can't get it done. I tried to warn everybody when they were talking about trading for him in the offseason. I just learned everything I needed to know about that person, their thoughts on Justin Fields. It's all about what they thought about in March, April, all that stuff, and not actually about what he's doing on the field. You are sitting around trying to critique everything that he does bad to be right. It's the same kind of crap that happened with Mason Rudolph in 2019. People would rather be right about him than actually look at what's going on and be objective about it. And that's the problems I have. I want to be objective. I want the best quarterback out there. And I'm trusting the Steelers to make that decision for this week. But guess what? If I get more data and get to see some Russ Wilson, I might have more of an opinion on that of what I think is best. But right now, frankly, I don't know. All I know is that Jim's been saying for a long time on Steel City Insider that Russ has not looked the same as he did in OTAs. And that concerns me because, sorry, I'm going a little bit of a rant here. But that's kind of what
Go for it, Dave.
Because if you're going to Russell Wilson, you have to get more out of him in the drop back passing game. You have to get a greater advantage with him than Justin Fields in that regard than what you're going to lose by not having the running threat by having Justin Fields. And if you do, that's good. That's great. I'm just not sure because I haven't seen it to know that you will. So that's why I think it is in a bit of a tough spot here.
So to comment on your troll, what I would ask him then is, if you don't think that Justin Fields' style of play could win in Pittsburgh, then how about you look at one of their rivals and ask me how the Baltimore Ravens have won all those games with Lamar Jackson?
And they will say, and they can't get to the Super Bowl. That's probably their answer. But you know what? I'm glad they aren't to a Super Bowl. So
but that's what I'm saying, that we have a better defense in Baltimore, and we need it because, to me, Justin Fields could get to that category down the line. If we see the improved decision making like he has now in this support system, who's to say he's 1A, 1B, maybe second best running quarterback in the entire league? Yeah. Whenever we're getting the pure athleticism, a 4.4 guy, and the size of a running back or a fullback, he's bigger than Lamar running around. Lamar isn't the most accurate quarterback either, but you know what? He can hit the home run balls when he needs to, which is what Justin Fields has showed the propensity if he's had a receiver to consistently get open down the field. Now, what you were saying here, Dave, I'm with you. I think that why it gives me pause with Russell Wilson, we were just talking about Zach Frazier's out now. We now have Samalu and Dan Moore is your only projected week 1 starters that's going to be in there. And you're going to now put the less mobile guy under center, which is where Russell Wilson likes to do a lot of his work, whereas Justin Fields is more of a pistol, shotgun type RPO player. I'm not so sure that's going to pan out too well. But I think what it comes down to as far in Tomlin's eyes, I think there was a handshake agreement that he was assured that he would get some starts as the Pittsburgh's quarterback this year. But I also think they wanted to see Justin Fields. I think they seen what they wanted to see in Justin Fields. I think he is our long-term investment at quarterback. He's 25 years old. He'll be 26 come next March. But as far as the 2024 season, I have a feeling we're going to see Russell Wilson in this game. And I think what the word is you got to look into there is sustainability. You made the point right there. As far as pure passing mechanics and the way of breaking down through the progressions, and as far as more consistently being able to get more out of the passing game, Russell Wilson is that guy. But exactly what you said as well, Dave. Is that enough of a trade-off to take away the dynamic playmaking ability and the ability to miss out on sacks? Because if you've listened to Dan Orlovsky, there's a lot of hidden yards that Justin Fields has made up for this year. A lot of it had to do with Dan Moore and Broderick Jones being, Broderick Jones is a turnstile, and Dan Moore's actually played solid football at left tackle.
Yeah, he had a rough game this past week. I think this was his worst one, maybe.
And he's going to have some bigger matchups down the line, but it's going to be, Justin Fields, I think, is our long-term starter, and I think you'll see that in the coming end of this season. But Russell Wilson, I had that feeling that they want to see if they can get more consistency and sustainability from their passing game. Because if we can hang our hat on one of the two aspects, either running or passing, that's what you need to be able to play off each other in the total progression of calling a game. And I think right now Arthur Smith doesn't have that ability, whether it's by predetermination of Mike Tomlin, not trusting Justin Fields, even though by all accounts through 6 games, he should have bought a little bit of equity in that aspect. He just looks to the resume of Russell Wilson and says, well, that guy's won a Super Bowl. He's running offense that I want to run, running the football, play action. Burger won games early on in Tomlin's career. That's what we see right now. Ever since the post-Ben era, he's never really trusted a quarterback, even Kenny Pickett. This is really the one guy that we've had since Ben retired that's had the resume and the gravitas that maybe you see Tomlin say, well, we're not going to handcuff you immediately on the first half of our play calls.
Yeah, and see, that's the thing. All right, we're going to have to take a break here soon, but I do want to finish talking about it. I've got several quick points to hit here. One, you kind of said something there at the end that I really like is I was expected the Steelers, once they saw what the offense could do in the second half when they had to against the Colts, that's what they would come out and try to do against the Cowboys, and they did the opposite. They played even more conservative. Will they open it up and not play as conservative with Russell Wilson because he's been there? If they're going to play just as conservative, then don't bother. Okay, then don't bother. Is it that you would trust Russell Wilson like you trusted Ben Roethlisberger? If that's what it comes down to, then I get it. That's one thing. Here's another thing. People are saying, oh, well, the comparison to Lamar Jackson. Remember, Lamar Jackson was not what he was now when he was, 4 years ago. So remember that there's a little bit of different stuff going on there. He's really progressed and been in a good situation to grow even more.
Once they fully committed.
Yes,
they fully committed to the style of offense he needs to play.
When it comes to Justin Fields, you can still say that he is someone where his career is on an upward trajectory. He's got to be able to continue to improve and things of that nature. Russell Wilson is who Russell Wilson is, and he's probably not even who he used to be. So you've got to remember that with all of this. So ultimately, I'm going to say this to Steelers fans, and they're not going to get this. I'll say it to everyone that'll hear me. And unfortunately, it's not enough of you out there, 175 or so in the live chat, and however many end up listening to this on the audio side. If the Steelers go with Russell Wilson, it's not that Justin Fields is benched. And that's what everyone's going to look at. How do you bench Fields now? It's not a benching, because notice they never took Wilson off as QB1 on the depth chart. That's what you have to remember. And there's a reason they did that, because when they came back, they didn't want Justin Fields to feel like he was getting benched or he did anything wrong. It's you held down the fort. Now we're going to see now we're going to have the veteran go out there, and we know what we have in you. So we know we can even be quicker to go back to you. That's the mentality of how they need to handle it. It's not how it's going to be perceived, but that's really what's ultimately going on. Do you see it as a benching if they go with Wilson?
No, absolutely not. And you said it perfectly, Dave. And I think, as twisted as it sounds, as far as Omar Khan and Tomlin are sitting in here big picture, nothing could have worked out better for them as far as laying out a game plan for the 2025 season and going forward. I got to see Justin Fields take all the first team reps through training camp with all the young players and a lot of the rookies that were out now. And I just got to watch him basically play, a little bit more than a quarter of a season. And I know we can play over 500 football with him with little weapons on offense, if we can speak frankly here. Najee Harris had really, 2 good games. Yeah. Jaylen Warren's been hurt most of the season. George Pickens been inconsistent at best, and a bunch of other misfits.
Inconsistent is the best way to say that one, yeah.
And Pat Fryermuth's probably been your most solid target, but we both
they're not using him enough.
Both quarterbacks don't utilize the middle of the field. So we're looking at now, okay, maybe Justin is the guy for the long term. We can sit back and know that if we're where we want to be by the end of the season, we're not going to be in draft pick area as far as draft order to get one of the guys that we want in the first round, because we're not going to make that mistake of going up and picking Kenny Pickett-esque player in the first round. We'll re-sign Justin and hopefully ride Russ if we can get his sustainability and trust factor. If he's not washed, if we can see him still have some progressive assets on the offensive side of the ball, passing the ball, maybe we get a deep playoff run out of Russ. But in the long term, we know that Justin Fields is our starter for the next few years. It really, as far as that, the puzzle pieces come together long term, not a bad way to start really getting a feel for how these players fit in the system you want to play.
Yeah, and I want to talk about those puzzle pieces when we come back from our break. Also, we're going to hit up our super chats that we've been missing. I know we went a little bit long in the first half, but really wanted to try to sum up some of that quarterback talk, but we're not going to move past it. It's going to be scattered throughout everything. So if you're with us here on Facebook, YouTube, or X, we're not going anywhere. If you're with us here on the audio side, stick around. We'll be right back after these messages.
Relax, don't worry, no rush, what's the hurry? Relax, don't worry, don't worry, relax. Relax, don't worry, no rush, what's the hurry? Relax, don't worry, don't worry, relax.
All right, Pittsburgh Steelers fans, we got to relax. Relax. Don't worry. Chances are the Steelers are going to get this wrong, because no matter what they do, half the people are going to think they're wrong and half of them are going to think they're right. It's great to be here with Roy Countryman. In case you're joining us late, didn't realize what's going on from Black and Gold Blueprint podcast, which you can find on Fans First Sports Network. Also, you can see him at Steel City Insider at the website there, right in there. And I forgot to say your website, Roy. Let's go ahead and hit that up now.
So I have my own scouting company as well. It's Big Country Scouting, but my website, which you'll definitely want to make sure to bookmark for all the off-season needs, it's prospectencyclopedia.com. It's going to have a database for all the off-season needs that you may have, where it's salary cap, team needs, free agents, lists that you may need, tradable players. And we'll also be having some draft order and my draft rankings throughout the off season as it's coming up to that season already. We're almost at the halfway point. So prospectencyclopedia.com. And you can always hit me up on X here at Preacher Boy Roy. My DMs are open. always willing to talk ball, anything, life, prayer. I'm also a pastor on the side as well, Dave. So anytime people need to have an ear to talk to or whatever they may need, always open the chat.
Yeah, and you say that on every one of your episodes of Black and Gold Blueprint. I think, what was it, episode 32 this past week? I think it was.
Yep.
So you can always go back and check those out. Those drop generally Friday morning. That's the one thing, Roy. Man, maybe you got to go ahead and drop them Thursday night or something. It seems like they're so short lived before the game. But yeah, it's some really good stuff. Got some super chats here. Here's one that someone else said. I don't know what you're saying there, and I'm going to kind of say the thing. I think this was in reference to me talking about the one person that was saying about the Justin Fields. You're like, you're confusing Chicago mega sports media bots for actual Steelers fans. They pose as fan of every team D-Rose played after leave. I don't really know what that's in reference to.
This is Steelers, not Derrick Rose in Chicago.
Yeah, that's what but I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm just saying that is outside of my wheelhouse. We also got, but hey, thanks for the $5 into the tip jar. We also got $1.99 from Brandon Diaz, one of our regulars, says Russ doesn't make us better. We'll see Sunday night. That's the thing. Some people are like, Russ doesn't make us better. So other people say, well, I saw someone else in the live chat at one point said, what has Russ done to show that he's done bad? That's true. He hasn't anything to show us bad or good. Right. It's that unknown. And there's going to be people that just have their overall opinions. I think this has more to do with Justin Fields than it does Russ, people's opinions, because Russell Wilson, it's kind of like when you're, back in high school and you're dating that girl. Then there's another girl in your math class that you're like set up with as partners for something, or in science, like your lab partner. And you're like, you know what? She's pretty cute. She's really nice to me. She's always nice to me. My girlfriend, she gives me a hard time about stuff. It's that unknown that you think about what it could be. And Russell Wilson, you think about what he's got the resume. But we also know that things didn't work out for 2 years in Denver. There's so many things. And it looks so great as long as that's not the guy out there taking the snaps. But you know what? All of a sudden, things don't work out with your girlfriend. Does anything ever materialize with that other girl? No. She's out of your league anyway. You didn't even realize it, Or no, she's not as great or wonderful as you thought. Sometimes you don't appreciate what you have until it's gone. Well, it's just that unknown with Russell.
And can we say the obvious here? If Russell Wilson comes out and throws 3 picks in the first half, does it preclude him from putting Justin Fields back in?
No.
Because
if Justin Fields would have thrown 3 picks in the first half against Vegas, they would have put Russell Wilson in.
And what was Tomlin out of anything in the presser today made it a point to say that there would still be options to have packages for Justin Fields.
Yeah.
That to me was more of dangling the bait, saying, keep your head in the game. If it doesn't go the way we think it's going to go, I'm not against. I mean, we seen what happened when Ben went out with the Duck and Mason situation. How is this any better with just a couple better chess pieces?
Yeah.
You have an all-star defense. You just need competent quarterback play.
And the Steelers have basically said, so this will go back to me saying about how Justin Fields wouldn't actually be quote unquote benched. And that is, the Steelers have basically told Russell Wilson he's their Ben Roethlisberger.
Yep.
This is your team. You've got the resume. You've shown that you can do it. You're the savvy veteran. This is your team. If Ben Roethlisberger was dealing with an injury and wasn't 100%, and even if Charlie Batch went 4-2, did Charlie Batch get benched? No, it's just the other guy. I don't think fans realize that that's been the mentality with Wilson from the day he agreed to come to Pittsburgh, that it was going to be his team. And that's part of the reason why KPA did what he did and wanted to get out of town. I also think part of that was the fact that they didn't go back to him when he was healthy last year. But he didn't have the resume. So that's, to me, that's what I just want, whatever the Steelers go with, to be the best thing for them. I want them to make the right decision, but I'm also cynical at times to say no matter what they do, it's going to be wrong, because there's going to be, either way they decide, there's going to be a bunch of people that think it's the right decision, a bunch of people that think it's wrong, a bunch of people that don't like it because the Steelers made it, regardless of what it is, and a bunch of people that don't love it just because the Steelers made the decision.
Well,
It's
and the people that I'm most concerned with out of everybody is the people on the other side of the football. And that's TJ Watt, Cam Hayward, those guys that are getting into their prime or towards the end of their prime, because we need to maximize that window while we still have. I know it's the highest paid defense, but those are the players that I'm worried about. I want to make sure I'm maximizing this offense so that I can get the most out of those players on defense for our championship window. And that's what we really need to be looking at. I know I already said about Justin Fields, maybe the future. Well, we also need to look at what's best for 2024. We're 4-2. We're right in the thick of it in the AFC North. If we can win the AFC North, we're in a driver's seat. There's really no football team in the AFC that's taking the bull by the horns. I know the Chiefs are undefeated, but we've also shown that we can beat the Chiefs in Kansas City. And seems like we're able to play in December football against those type of teams. So I'm not scared by any one team in the AFC right now. If we can get just incrementally better on offense, you're talking about a world of defense in the grand scheme of things in the 2024 season.
Yeah, and there, to me, I think this has a lot to do with other things other than the quarterback that are actually the bigger factors here. It's the offensive line. It's the run game. It's the wide receivers getting open. And honestly, it's what the game plan is willing to be. And I think that last one might even be the biggest one. Now, is that also dictated on the Steelers, struggling at wide receiver? I mean, my goodness, I know you liked Van Jefferson when you talked about in the offseason. They didn't even target him this last game.
Nope.
They didn't have a target, So things, they could use some help there. They obviously could. So there's so many different things, but if the Steelers are going to put in Russell Wilson and run the same conservative game plan that they are with Justin Fields, I would say just don't bother. Just don't bother. If you're going to put him in there, it's because you trust him. And I understand if you still don't trust Justin Fields. He's got a lot of things to work out still. It's not that he can't work them out. He still needs to. But if you trust Russ so much that you can just sit back and say, go do it. We're not going to hold you back. We're not going to sit back and say, oh, don't make that dangerous throw and turn it over, even though we have this great defense that hopefully could rise to the occasion if you put them in a bad spot. Just if that's the factor, then I understand what they're going to do.
Yeah, they need to be able to come out immediately, put the foot down on the gas pedal, not be disconcerted and disjointed in running the ball, and no threat in passing. And that's what it's really seemed like in the first, at least quarter in each one of these games that we've been talking about, the slow get off. We haven't had, really a quick get off on offense. Well, it's the distrust in Justin Fields. You don't trust him to take 5 steps back and take a shot downfield. You did it early, maybe in one game to George Pickens, and then, well, it was a penalty, and then it got called back. We can't do that. We're scared. You said the perfect word, trust. If Russell Wilson gets us to be aggressive early on, let's do it, because our total game plan should be take the game to them early on offense, get a lead, let the defense do its wreaking of havoc, get some turnovers, and pound the ball in the second half. That's what we're built for right now. And right now, we're completely opposite. We are disjointed in the first half, and it's been pretty much here, Justin, you figure out, with your legs, escape and maybe get some touchdowns here before the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and I just, there's so much there that I don't know what to expect. We didn't get too much in last week's game. I'm trying to think about what we actually did.
Well, we can talk about the defense. We can talk about defense. Najee.
Let's go to the. We've been all off.
Yeah,
I was going to say we talked about Najee Harris. Yeah, he scored that long touchdown on the one toss play that still wasn't blocked well when he just happened to break through.
Yeah,
had a couple real nice runs of just ripping through, carrying people. It seems like the Steelers normally you would think 4 out of 5 ain't bad, but it's like you'll get 4 guys blocking the right thing and 1 guy not, and it could just be a disaster.
Yeah.
But man, that defense, how worried were you this past week after that first drive?
I was quite worried. But then to see TJ Watt be able to impact the game in opposite ways than just sacking the quarterback just speaks to how dominant of a player he is. I know PFF put out that lame stat now about he's the highest chip player. Well, where was that last year when they were talking up Myles Garrett and getting him Defensive Player of the Year? Because this has been going on consistently. And by the way, I think they need to make up a stack of how many times a person has been held and not been called on him, because that could have been ridiculous.
Now remember, I keep reminding everyone, pretty much anytime TJ Watt uses that rip move, they can do anything but grab him by the helmet. It's not a hold.
Right.
That's
absolutely.
just the rules.
Yeah.
But there's plenty of times that he gets held when that's not the case.
But
so here's something interesting. Here's some numbers that are interesting. I don't know. I report the PFF stuff for our website. It's not that I grade it. I actually grade their performance every week because I'm like, hey, if you're grading players, I'm grading
you. Yeah,
that's what I turned into doing last year because I got so tired of things that would frustrate me. Like, I mean, my goodness, there was an anomaly last week that, what was it? Zach Frazier individually scored higher than, who was it? Was it Isaac Seumalo? I can't remember who it was, in both run blocking and pass blocking, but yet the other player had a higher overall grade. There were no penalties. I'm like, how do you do that? That makes no sense. But last week I pointed out, I had gone back week by week by week, all the playoffs and regular season, all the way back to 2020. And last week, a Landon Roberts run defense grade of a 97.3 was the highest of any player in a game going back to 2020. Could go back further. I just stopped there because I didn't feel like going back any further.
Right.
It was very short-lived. Now, this wasn't just Steelers. This was NFL, across an NFL game. Because his 97.3 got crushed by TJ Watt's 99.0 grade this week.
Yeah.
Against the run. And TJ Watt basically said, hey, if they're going to try to slow me down getting to the passer, I'm just going to try to blow up the run game. And he did.
Yeah. Yeah, he completely wrecked things. And Cam Hayward, I don't think he gets talked about enough. He's
my guy. I wear his jersey every game day.
And I'm telling you, one of the nicest people, like me and Rob talk about a lot because Rob's blessed. He gets to work for the Hayward Foundation.
Yes.
And got to meet Cam himself and Connor and his mom, Charlotte. Great people off the field. But that dude is a freaking monster. And I keep comparing him to the Reggie White of Pittsburgh because that's how much gravitas this guy has. He's also got the same power class as what Reggie White did late in his career. He might not be as quick as he once was, but did you see him put Jackson Powers Johnson on roller skates and throw him back into the backfield? That's a bad man out of Oregon, and he just took his lunch money. So good on Cam there. And hey, and I've been critical of Patrick Queen all season.
Mm-hmm.
It actually looked like he earned his paycheck against the Raiders. He was flying around, making some good hits. And there was even, I know Brock Bowers was their most targeted player. There were some nice plays with Peyton Wilson and man coverage on him, which early on he got taken advantage of in earlier matchups with some inside leverage. Guys were taking advantage of that. He looks like he's starting to get his feet underneath him in man coverage, which we all know that freakish athleticism that he has that they've been utilizing. So that was encouraging as well. But the biggest development to me was Patrick Queen looking like he's starting to fit in, and Dante Jackson and Deshaun Elliott looking like steals as well in the secondary. Those guys have been really meshing well on the back end.
I'm going to ask because I'm former offensive lineman, coached offensive line and defensive line in high school for 7 seasons, and I'm not a wide receiver or secondary guy. That's not me. Joey Porter Jr., what did you think of his performance this past week?
I thought he was adequate. Like it to me, I'm so unsure.
A horrible PFF grade. And I'm like, I didn't think that passed my eye test at all.
A lot of it is, I'm not sure. Are they playing him press zone? Are they playing him just man? Like sometimes you're not sure like what coverage because they've been rolling safeties over the top a lot. That's where Minka's been playing a lot of his percentages of snaps has been over the top of JPJ this year. So to me, I'm not quite sure. It's really hard to get until you get the all 22 breakdown of him. I think Joey Porter Jr. has taken a step forward in his confidence and being able to carry that number 1 assignment every week. So I think he's done a really good job. The one place that I've actually been really impressed with is his run defense this year.
Mhm.
He's
Much
really,
better. So much
really
improved.
last
And
year going
when
to
the
camp seeing
sling,
him in
yeah.
person was like, ooh, that might be why you don't see the field early on. Now it's like he's bringing the lumber and not afraid to go up and rock some guys with his pads. So that to me, I think more than anything has been the more well-rounded side of him. I think he's confident in man coverage. I'm just not sure our secondary as a total is really sound in zone coverage.
No,
We've
and
seen that with Beanie.
he insisted on playing for 2 losses.
Right,
Oh,
and
I get so mad.
I think we need to realize
I talked about your podcast on
Yeah.
our podcasts about Chris. Was that his name? That was the Cowboys fan. What was his name?
David.
Okay,
Yeah.
I should remember that. I couldn't remember who you had for what. And he said, "Oh, well, the best chance the Cowboys going to have if the Steelers decide they want to play zone defense." And then
Yep.
that's what they did on every
Yep.
third down. It was so frustrating.
Yep.
Anyway, but yeah, and I don't think that fits well to their personnel. But Joey Porter Jr., the reason I asked about that is I don't know if you saw that George Pickens made an appearance on, I can't remember what show that was on today. Oh, the one with Acho. What's it called? I'm not, someone will tell me what it was.
Inside the NFL, I think.
No,
maybe.
it was. I think it started with the D.
Okay.
But they kept trying to get him to say things, and he did a really good job of not saying the wrong things. But one of the things they always do ask wide receivers, who's the best 5 defensive backs in the league, and he put Joey Porter Jr. in that top 5. There it is. Jeremy Betts got it.
There you go.
Facility. I don't know if I've never watched it before, but
Yeah.
someone put it in our Slack channel for our staff. So that's what made me check it out. But I thought that was interesting about Joey Porter Jr. But yeah, that defense, I think there were 11 drives in the game. They had the 3 long drives that they gave up, the one that finished with the fumble, the 2 that resulted in touchdowns. Outside of that, they did not give up another drive that went for more than 20 yards.
Yeah.
The rest of the game. And more than half the drives didn't even go for 10 yards.
Yeah.
So
Dominant.
sometimes a team's going to get rolling with something, but they did some pretty nice things with nobody else on the outside as a rushing the passer opposite of TJ Watt.
Yeah. And that's going to be big if we get Highsmith back this
Yeah.
week. I think that's honestly, you know how much love I have for Nick Herbig. I think that was one of the biggest injuries early on this season, even more in the offensive line, because once he went out of that game in Dallas, that completely changed their play calling ability. That last play wouldn't have happened if Nick Herbig would have been in there. I think he would have been taking whomever was at left tackle, because I know Guyton was out. They would have took his lunch money because Herbig was eating all that night, and it's going to be nice to see them all 3 hopefully get back and healthy and spell each other late in the season here.
Yeah, and Herbig was the other player that they said is ruled out for this week, but hopefully it won't be too long. But yeah, I had to mention it, and of course the special teams. I mean, I take Boswell for granted so much. I do. Like I said on our post game show, I'm like, pretty much whenever he comes out for a field goal, I was covering for my brother because he was traveling for his trip, where he does our knee-jerk reaction article where he's giving his reactions as the game goes on.
Mm-hmm.
And I was filling in doing that. And every time the Steelers lined up for a field goal, I already had put in that it's good and gave you updated score. I just didn't even think about it. I don't want to not appreciate him for everything that he does. And to get that punt block was a big play. It was a big play.
Absolutely.
I know that one is they only turned that one into a field goal, right?
Yep.
Because
it
was
only
the interception that was the one that they scored on the very next play.
Yes.
And that's a big deal, people, for the offense to on the very next play finish it off for a touchdown. Kudos to that. I want to ask one other thing about this past game, because I know we're running way late, but that's what happens when you get people that didn't get to talk about each game throughout the season. I heard on TV when the one play, I swear I heard a mic pick it up or something, that the Steelers are there and they're calling stuff, and I thought someone said draw, and they said yeah, and they snapped the ball. And that's when Justin Fields just takes off on a draw and gets a first down on a decent, has a decent run. I thought I heard that. I got to go back and see if I can find that audio.
You very well could have, because a lot of them are the pre-snap tendencies. And a lot of it is the motion that you can catch it if it's going to be a draw or not. But see, that's the thing we're not going to be sure about this week, because if Russell Wilson's under center, we're all not sure. We don't know what's going to happen.
But I just thought that was neat. But since we're at the very end here, let's transition to this week for just a minute. Now, first of all, I want to throw this out there. I know for some people, when you go through difficult things in your life, sometimes they continue to come back up. And I don't want to, I still like talking about my mom. I know it's fresh. I like talking about her. I took her to two Steeler games, one in 2015, one in 2016. She was there for the win against the Raiders. That was when AB went nutso with all the yards. And the next year she was there for a win against the Jets. That was when Sammy Coates had his basically only game as a Steeler. And that just so happens to be who the Steelers play on back-to-back weeks, right after, a couple weeks after losing my mom. So it goes Raiders and Jets. So here we go into the Jets. Was not overly impressed with them on Monday night. The Hail Mary, I saw that after the fact. I was surprised they called that possession. I never saw a good look at it. Yeah. But I wasn't watching it live. I was just trying to catch something with it afterwards. That I don't find that overly impressive. They say about, Aaron Rodgers. I'm like, all he does is throw the ball down there. The receiver is the one who's got to go get it. But they didn't really have much offense outside of that.
No.
And honestly, now I think Buffalo, now that we're getting Amari Cooper, that's going to help them a lot. But Buffalo hasn't been the strongest team recently either. So, but yet the potential that you have with Aaron Rodgers and those weapons can be really, really scary. What are your thoughts going into this game now?
Well, there was one play in particular that you were saying they didn't have a lot of offense outside of that Hail Mary. I actually heard a stat today that as far as I think it's yards per game and points per game, they're no farther ahead than what they were with Zach Wilson as their starting quarterback. So for all the gravitas that Aaron Rodgers gets, if it wouldn't have been for that Hail Mary, I wouldn't have wanted to seen what the matchup was. And that's not to say that Aaron Rodgers still can't come out and have one of his patented performances, but Rodgers had a couple plays that he missed last night, and you're like, is Father Time catching up and creeping up with Mr. Rodgers here? Like, I don't know. And it seems like that offensive line is quite shaky on the edges. So if we can get Highsmith back, I think that's going to be a key thing in this development. Tyron Smith, as I talked about a little bit earlier, struggled. Morgan Moses is still coming back from injury. It was his first game back. Watt opposite him. Maybe getting some, flying around defensive secondary here. I'm not so sure. I'm really scared by the Jets offense. I know Devontae Adams is already saying he's going to be playing in Acrisure on Sunday. I don't know. I'm not really scared by that offense, maybe outside of the running back tandem, because those are two monsters they have back there.
Yeah, and that's true. And you look at the various ways that they could get you, because they have the good running backs. They have the, is there any running back? Is there a quarterback that's played more years in the league right now than Aaron Rodgers?
I don't think so.
Active? I don't think so. And now you look at adding yet another weapon. So there's the potential there that you could be like, they could bust out into something big at any time, but they haven't.
Right.
And that's why sometimes you get the cynical Steelers fans are like, so guess when they're going to do it? In prime time in Pittsburgh or something.
Probably.
So if they did, it wouldn't shock me. But I could also see this as a race to 10 points game because the Jets defense is legit. They've had to live on that defense recently. Now, you also got to remember, see, you might like this. I proposed this last year before, threw that out there. How about the NFL changes up how they do their draft? You want to take away tanking or whatnot? Let's not award your draft picks based on last year's record. That'll be the tiebreaker, perhaps. Base it on who's been the longest since they made the playoffs.
Ooh.
So that means if you've been the longest, the Jets they're the longest by a ton. Was it like 14 seasons now? It was 11 when I did this. So it must have been 3 years ago.
Probably Mark Sanchez.
Mark Sanchez game. Yeah. The last ones. So I mean, isn't the last time they were in the playoffs didn't the Steelers face them in 2010?
Yep, against Rex Wright.
I think that's the last time.
Yep.
So they would have the first pick. Then it would be the next team that's been the longest without making the playoffs. So then that way you're actually giving the best players to the teams that aren't making it to the postseason. So that way you could continue to push for it at the very end of the year. I know they'll never do it. I just thought it was a fun idea to
That's
think about.
interesting, though.
You
That's
know,
interesting.
to say, hey, you came up, you lost the tiebreaker of making to the postseason. That's all right. You still got the third overall pick because you haven't made the playoffs in X amount of years.
That's an
So,
interesting concept.
yeah, just a different way to look at it. But anyway, because that's the Jets, though. You can talk about, oh, they've had to ride their defense recently. They haven't ridden anything to the postseason. So we're running way over. We've got to get to what we do every week, and that's our big question. For those of you that might be new in the live chat, don't put your answer out there until I say to do it. I'll actually type it in there. But during the regular season, unless it's the bye week, it's the same big question that I asked my brother. So, Roy, you got to do it this week. And that is, what is your score prediction for this Sunday night at Acrisure Stadium on Sunday Night Football against the New York Jets? Now, for those of you that type it in, if you don't put a team, we just assume that you mean the Steelers are winning, or you can put in teams as well.
All right. Well, I hope I don't let your brother down here, Dave.
No, it's all right.
I'm going to go with Pittsburgh's going to come out with a victory here, 26-20 against the New York Jets. I think they break 20 points, but we wind up coming up with 2 field goals in the fourth quarter to come up and win it here.
Gotcha. Does it change your prediction when who's playing quarterback?
Not so much. No,
Okay.
I think
curious
we're gonna get out to a lead early. I think they're gonna come out and maybe show something different. I think we're gonna see a little bit of the Russell Wilson experience. We might get a quick play action, which we haven't seen on the first play of the game, and see if we can't get one of them patented Russell Wilson bombs down to maybe George Pickens or Calvin Austin.
So, all right. Well, I'm going to get to reading scores here because this is the time that just goes. I've been dealing with a bit of a sore throat, so hopefully I can get through this one because and now you can laugh at me because I butcher names something terrible when I have to read them. So I already had that out there in the live chat to say that we're going. So we started off with Steelers Pittsburgh says 23-20 Steelers. Steel Dog 88's got 9-6
Barn burner.
Steelers in a barn burner. Okay. TD, that's Tom Dessenberger, has 26-17 Steelers. Outside Steeler fan has Good Guys 24, Jets 10. Kevin Brokenborough has 20-13 Steelers. Here we go. Let's go. Harvey Stone has 27-17 Steelers. Thomas Riley has 20 Jets 24. Steelers. Thomas, you're back at it. It worked last week. Last year, Thomas had a tie every week. He wasn't doing it earlier this year. He broke the losing streak last week by going with the tie. So he's going with the tie again. That's the way he's got to do it. Thank you, Thomas. Jeremy Bett's been in the live chat today. He's got 2017 New York Jets.
Ooh.
All right. We got Wes coming in with 31-21 Jets. Okay, we got BF Bud with 34-14 Steelers. If the Steelers could put up 34 points in the Jets defense, I don't want to hear Steelers fans complain anymore.
Yep.
That would be something. Okay. I mean, honestly,
Statement game.
I said a race to 10 points. A race to 20 points might be more realistic, but these two defenses, it'll be interesting to see how this goes. Kathy Forrid has 23-17 Steelers. John Walter has 17-13 Steelers. Sherry Richards has it in here 24-16. That's the Steelers. Let's see. There's Afton. Come on, Afton. You got to get yours in there. Afton Forrid has 17-13. Good Guys. Let's see. That's all I have right now. There might be some more coming in as we go. Okay, here we go. I haven't seen, I don't remember this name before. So this is everyone. I have G Stacks 434 says Steelers 20, Jets 16. If anyone comes in, I'll try to bring them up here as we go. But instead, we're going to close out. Roy, to close out, you want to give us any kind of closing thoughts? Because normally I do my closing thoughts and then Rich, my brother, ends the show, but we're going to switch it up. Any closing thoughts or anything you would like to plug at this time?
For me, I just, like you said, I hope we get an answer on this quarterback situation. We need to get some data, see if it's what we're talking about here at length. Is it really the trust factor? It's all that this coaching staff wants. If we see the trust factor being the differentiation in between Fields and Wilson, let Wilson be the quarterback if it opens it up and takes the shackles off early on. wanted to say again, Dave, thank you for letting me come on here and kind of be the substitute for your brother. I appreciate everything for the Steel Curtain Network and Fans First Sports Network for letting me join in here. Me and Rob, it's been a blast. Make sure to go check out the prospectencyclopedia.com. Check out the off-season stuff. It's going to be coming out here soon. 247sports.com, and make sure to reach out on X as well at Preacher Boy Roy. Always willing to talk ball.
Now, and I will say right now, everyone that's if you're with us here live or you're listening later on the audio, take your phone right now, go to Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts, and look it up, Black and Gold Blueprint, and subscribe. Go do that. You're gonna love to hear Roy and Rob what they had to say. No, it's funny. You guys had guests for 2 weeks and the Steelers lost both weeks. So
yeah, we had
last
really
week. You didn't have one and they're back on the winning. So you guys should be done with that. Here we go. We've got Verge saying 24-20 Jets, and we also have Douglas W. Russell saying 24-17 Steelers. But make sure you go subscribe. It's a great show. Really, really it is. Make sure you all go check that out. Make sure you're checking out all the other podcasts coming at Steel Curtain Network. We'll have another Let's Ride with Jeff Hartman tomorrow morning. Where he'll have his mailbag segment, and we should have, as far as I know, we have another Steel City Insider coming Wednesday. I know last week it got bumped to do a little bit later in the week, but that's because they were getting Max Starks on there. That was a great show. If you didn't catch that, make sure you go back and get that. We'll be bringing you all our typical shows. And unfortunately, it'll be late, and hopefully not as late as the last time they played on Sunday Night Football when Jeff and I were, when it was 1:30 starting a post-game show. But hopefully it won't be that late. But we'll be back for another post-game show Sunday night, win or lose, no matter what, with the Steelers and Jets. And, of course, also make sure you're checking out SteelCurtainNetwork.com. In case you haven't heard, we're getting an upgrade to the website with a new design. It's coming. We're hoping it's going to be by the end of October. If not, it'll be sometime in November. I've got to look at it. I love it. It's great. Fixing a lot of things that both us as the content creators and those of you that come and check it out would like to see. And just once again, Roy, thank you so much for coming on here tonight. I've been wanting to do shows with you because I love listening to your podcast and get you on here. Make sure that people know where they can find you, where they can hear that great show. So with that, I guess I'm the one who's got to close it off tonight. It's going to be weird because it's always Big Bro that says it, but he'll be back. He'll be doing the knee-jerk reaction for Sunday night, and I just want to see whoever's playing quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers go out there and do a good job and get another Steelers win Sunday night. Can't wait.
You gotta just chill out, man.
Can't wait.